My whole career, I've been told it's not personal, it's just business. Bullshit. How can owning a business not be personal? So let's get into it. Let's get real, transparent, and authentic. Let's talk about the bullshit we face as business owners. Let's talk about the multiple hats we wear, the staffing challenges, the insane expectations, and even about the money. At Collective Alternative, we do marketing, but it's not who we are. So let's talk about it. Let's get personal. So, welcome to Making Business Personal podcast. Today, I wanted to talk about a small but pretty impactful challenge that a lot of business owners, especially small business owners, face. What do you do when one of your employees comes to you and says, "I'm pregnant"? Of course, you're super happy for them and you want to celebrate it, but you immediately go to, "Oh shit, they're going to be out for 6 weeks or more. And what happens and who covers them?" And when you've got a small team, I mean, anything like that has a huge impact on what's going on in the organization. And this just recently happened to us last year. We had someone out for 6 weeks. And then Kristen, who is just integral in our organization, was our creative director. Now she's our VP of creative. She came to me, announced she's pregnant. So we both immediately said, "Oh, okay, great. Now what do we do?" So first, Kristen, thanks for joining me today and congratulations.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So we're having a boy, right?
Yep.
Having a boy. And you're how close to due?
38 weeks right now. So, 2 weeks or 2 minutes. Any time now.
Oh, no pressure. Okay. All right. So 2 minutes. Hopefully we can get through this podcast before she goes into labor, but we'll get there. So as I said, Kristen's integral part. So Kristen, just tell our listeners a little bit about what you do for CA.
I handle a lot of,
As her microphone falls off the table.
I handle a lot of that kind of day-to-day quality assurance, making sure that, what we're putting out for clients is what needs to be put out into the marketplace. It's making sure that we've got strategy behind what we're doing, as well as meeting the client's brands and their needs, looking at reporting. It's just kind of that overarching quality assurance, I would say, with the strategy piece worked in as well. So
yeah. So when a client comes to me and they say, we want to launch a new product, usually Kristen and I are wrapping our heads around that. What does that look like? Who are we talking to? What's the audience? How do we take that to market? And you do a lot of that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You do a lot of the research on the back end and how are we going to take that to, what does that look like? What tactics do we use? All of those different pieces.
Little detail stuff, how to make this big picture happen.
Yeah. And then once it goes through the team, it's been created and developed, it comes back to you and you check and make sure it's on strategy and all of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously front and end of that pipeline, that's a pretty big role to fill. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about how we went about once you announced that, what our game plan looked like and how we went about that.
So I think when companies encounter kind of I call it a hurdle in a good way,
opportunity,
an opportunity like that, you've got a few options. You can look at bringing someone in from the outside as a temporary cover for that person. You can look at, just kind of halting or pushing off responsibilities in that area, or you can see if there's somebody within the company that can cover that. And in our case, certainly can't just stop what we're doing for 6 weeks. And we're always looking at kind of hiring from within or covering from within before we would just bring in somebody to just kind of make it through the 6 weeks. So what we did in this case, we're looking at, another really important member of the team who has really great potential for being in this role long term. So I think it was the perfect opportunity to kind of push her into that role and just see how she's gonna fare while we're
Flourish
out.
and grow and
yeah. So it's kind of maybe a little more accelerated of a timeline than maybe we had planned before, but I think it's working out really well.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I know we did that. So Kylie was out pregnant last year, and we did that with her. We had someone else in the content department that was very new and new to us, new to content, but had been with us for maybe about a year. Started in school, and then she came in, and I think she spent some good time with Kylie, kind of learning the role, learning what needed to be done, and was able to pick up those pieces and cover for Kylie while she was out, and it worked out for her. So she, when Kylie came back, she was able to move into a different department direction, and Maggie was able to stay on and mature into that content director, and it was a win-win across the company.
Yeah, I think that's what's exciting. I see the same kind of possibility happening in this case where I've been in the role that I'm in, of course, learning new things and growing and whatever, but basically doing the same thing for 5 or 6 years now. And I think it's to that point where I am ready to take the next leap. We know we've needed it. It's just kind of that push that needed to happen in order to make kind of a bigger shift happen.
Yeah.
So,
and as a business owner, even from your perspective, a member of leadership, you get nervous. Can somebody really step into those shoes? They are big shoes to fill. Can somebody step into those shoes and really make sure our clients don't see an interruption in what they're receiving, what we're developing or delivering to them? So there's certainly some angst that goes along with that.
And I'm just the kind of person that I'm never going to feel like I'm totally prepared for anything. So there's always these constant things on my mind. What about this? What about this? And don't forget to do this. But I mean, at the end of the day, I have full faith in everybody here. And I know that, while I'm an important part of the team, everybody else can handle what I do. And I think the hardest thing for me is just that feeling of I'm just dumping all of this stuff on people. And that's, I think, the hardest part.
Yeah. I know you and I were joking, we've been working together for 9 years and we've never been without each other. I mean, we're closed over Christmas break, but really that's about it. Mm-hmm. And just how different that's going to be. And that's just an emotional piece of it.
Yeah.
Doesn't even have anything to do with the work.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking, so the longest I've probably ever been out when the office was open would have been the 6 days for my wedding.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, now we're talking about 6 weeks. And while that's like not a very long amount of time in the grand scheme of things, it's different.
Yeah. So. Well, and overwhelming. I know you've been working really long hours lately trying to get everything wrapped up and, tied up to a good place. And I mean, we certainly appreciate that. But at some point you have to come to the realization it's not going to be wrapped up in a pretty bow, and other people need to pick that up and run with it. And I know for you that's probably gut wrenching.
Yeah. I think just over the last week or so, I've come to the realization, like, it's, as much as I want everything to be prepared and in line, it's not going to happen. So the best I can do now is just overshare information, take note of absolutely everything that I think, and just kind of have it out there and accessible. So if people need the information, it's there.
Mm-hmm. And I do feel like one thing we have done really well is just communicate constantly about, okay, so, how do we go about doing this while you're out, or how do we do this? So just communicating those different things. I know right now we are acting as if you're not here. Mm-hmm. That way you're still available to us when we come across questions and things like that. So we kind of already instigated some of those covering practices, and in that expectation of when you're gone and then covering questions or whatever while we have you.
Yeah.
I think that proactive piece is important.
Yeah. And I think that's good. I mean, even if you're not talking about a maternity leave situation, that's good practice to have in play for any company, for any employee, is to just over communicate and share that in preparation of, God knows what might happen, just to have that information out there and to make sure you're not sticking yourself in a hole if, something bad should happen.
Yeah. I mean, COVID, people would be out for 2 weeks unexpectedly.
Right.
And I know that was a big challenge for a lot of companies to figure out, oh my gosh, where is this? Where is that? And this person, handles all of this. Who else knows how to do this role? And it was a lot of people trying to cross train, develop standard operating procedures, all of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we also are working on growing our team this year and developing a lot of standard operating procedures. And tell me a little bit about how you're feeling about being out from the leadership side.
I think with the nature of how we operate day to day, how quickly everything moves, it's hard sometimes to be out for an afternoon and feel like you're still in the loop because of how quickly things happen around here. And so, outside of the work's going to be coming and going, whatever. But even like major organizational changes, hiring people, a new tool or new trend or market changes, and that stuff can happen at the drop of a dime. And it could really shift what we do and the choices that we make. And I really value being a part of that leadership team and making those decisions with the team. But I mean, it has to move on.
Yeah.
And I trust you guys immensely. So
yeah,
I expect changes for when I come back. I mean, you can take one day off, like I said, and come back to something totally different. So I expect changes when I come back. Hopefully not a totally different company, but
no way. We're very deliberate on our changes, but it's just the nature of our industry, as you said. Things happen so fast, and I'm sure there will be things that happen while you're out, but we'll do our best to, maybe we'll do what we did with Caitlin that one year where we send you a list of, are these truths or are they these lies? And you can go through
and a lie.
Yeah, you can go through the list and try and figure out what's real and what's not real, and we'll make a game out of it.
Don't do that to me, please. No, and I mean, but our leadership team is close enough to where, if it was a major decision, I don't doubt that you would still involve me. Like I've said,
absolutely.
I'm not falling off the face of the planet and stuff.
Well, we want to give you plenty of time to love on that new baby boy and, enjoy all the baby smells and all of it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, so tell me a little bit about who's taking over for you and what your challenges and opportunities have been in that training process. What has that looked like?
So the person that will be taking over in the interim, and then the goal is just moving forward so that when I come back, I'm doing something different, is Emily, who's been working with us for a little over a year. Her background's very solid. We've looked at her in this position, even I think since when we were interviewing her, we saw, kind of a future going this direction for her. So it's, like I mentioned before, really just more of a fast track to kind of covering that role. And it's, I know, probably been that kind of fire hose training for her. She probably would have had 5 months to really understand and grasp everything that's going on. And I've been with the company for 8 years, and the whole 8 years is a learning process. So I can't imagine what that's like, just jumping into something and trying to wrap your hands around everything that goes on all the time. But I think she's been doing a great job of keeping up. And
when we talked to, I know about, you, where she steps into that creative director role, the two of you are very different in how you approach that role.
Right.
You're much more analytical, and she's much more, I wouldn't say much more creative, but creative, high level. She likes to look at the big picture. So even just your perspectives on it is different. But then also one thing I have noticed is, when you have been that creative director, and you and I have had so many direct communications, and then you have had direct communications with your team that I haven't. But as we've grown our team, now I'm constantly talking to several members of the team and having those conversations. And I've noticed where not all of those things get back to Emily.
Right.
The way before I would have just gone through you. And so we've had to tweak our processes and things too, as we've grown, and paying attention to all those different facets has been a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's the one piece of covering and just making sure things are happening while you've got a team member out, which is really what I'm trying to focus on. But then at the same time, it's looking at what does that relationship and dynamic look like after those 6 weeks, and how can we work together to be a better team and a stronger team once she's got, this portion under her belt, and I'm able to work with her in just a different capacity to make what we do better, to make our communication stronger, to make what we're putting out there more productive and better for our clients too. Yeah,
absolutely. I know while she's been in this training, we brought in-house a developer, and, before they worked externally, and we still have that external team, but we have someone in-house. And so that gives me somebody else to kind of give direction to or add on, but still someone that needs to be in communication with Emily, and that is a little different than the way that you have had or built your team before. Right. So I think it's an interesting dynamic and something that we just are constantly evolving, which creates some challenges as a small business, but nothing that, as long as we're keeping our eye on the prize, and we want to grow, we want to keep our culture, we want to be strong and support one another and strong team, I feel like we're going to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm excited for kind of that forced change, because I think we saw that last year with the content covering, and, you bring that other team member back in, and the employee has had 6 weeks or more to really has no choice but to just make it, figure it out. So then when you bring that additional person back into the fold, there's more opportunity there to just cover other areas, expand our reach. And I think that's served us well before. So I'm hoping for the same thing.
Yeah. So what kind of challenges do you foresee when you come back into CA?
I think part of it is just getting reacclimated with everything. We're going to have new clients, new projects. I'm going to wonder, whatever happened to this? How did this work out? Are we still doing this? I know there's going to be those questions. Honestly, we're such a small team, and we're so close, but I feel like it may be a little awkward being out for that long. I don't know. Maybe that's just a personal thing, but just coming back into it and, pairing that with another, huge life change.
Yeah.
I'm already changing it in that aspect. So I'm going to be a different person coming back, but it's just a lot at once.
Oh yeah. And I think there are different priorities.
Yeah.
Right. You will change even your entire routine.
Right.
Because you have another human being there that's a part of that. And so your attention is pulled in different directions, and so your day-to-day routines will change dramatically, and it will almost be relearning that when you come back in.
Yeah.
So I think I learned that, when Kylie came back last year, there was a lot of patience, and, I didn't expect her to come back the same way she was.
Yeah.
And she really tried.
Yeah.
I mean, she really tried. But that was a conversation she and I had. You need to accept that you're not the same.
Yeah.
And I know you will know that, but I think I foresee that being a conversation you and I have too.
Yeah.
I
think there's a lot of pressure from both sides at that point.
Yeah.
You want to give 100% in all areas of your life, but that's obviously not realistic. So it's just finding that balance and communicating.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's very exciting. So all of that being said, I think one thing I am assured of is, the team that we have in place, they are so happy for you, which I absolutely love, and willing to do whatever so that you can experience this time in your life. So they're willing to jump up and step up and, help you with anything and everything. And that extends to our clients, right? They want to support our clients so they don't see any interruption. They want to support the team. And I hope you feel that too, because I think it would give you some comfort being out. And I know our clients will miss you. I know clients call you directly for things and they won't be able to do that, but they know, we have it covered, and no matter what, it'll be taken care of. And I think that's something that we as an organization do really, really well.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that makes it harder, is that we do have such a great team. We do have such a great dynamic and, great clients, and I'm incredibly loyal and dedicated to the company. So that makes it hard. Like, there are times where I wish, I could be, working any other job and people are doing it and they take maternity leave and they just don't care and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not there. And, it would certainly be easier, but I wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's what's so great about our team, right? I feel like they all have similar feelings and, about each other, about the clients, about the company. And I love that. And that's why I say all the time how blessed we are, because I feel like that is what the people you surround yourself with, that's what truly makes or breaks your life. And we've got a really rock solid team there.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this very different Making Business Personal podcast. As you can see, we're changing things up a little bit. We are really talking about kind of what's going on in our day-to-day lives, what's going on with the team, where we're going as an organization. And, as it said in our intro, we do marketing, but it's not who we are. And we really want to start bringing a focus in on who we are and opening up the conversation. So if you have anything you want to talk about, anything you want us to discuss on our podcast, please feel free to visit our site and leave a question, leave a comment, anything that we can discuss and talk through for you. If you're interested in being on the podcast, please let us know that too. And as always, thank you for listening to the Making Business Personal podcast. At Collective Alternative, affectionately known as CA, we do marketing, but it's not who we are. It's important that we're good at what we do, but it's so much more than that. It's about showing up as we are and living that out each day. So let's talk about it. Let's get personal.